Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, enjoying your week so far, and having a fantastic start to your day. I know I'm feeling pretty well myself, so hope you folks are also. If you're not, hope your day gets better. But we're going to give you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today. Try to figure it out for you folks. We got smoke to talk about. We got big-time heat to talk about. And we have a ring of fire setup, which means we got pieces of energy that basically fly across the upper portion of this ridge. It's really been entrenched into the southern U.S. for quite some time now. It's bobbed and weaved back west, back east, but this is actually beginning to shift a little bit further east now. So that means areas further east is going to get hotter, and also certain sections of the east, including the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, even into the Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast, the Alps regions, could get some nasty kind of rounds of storms. We call them MCS, which is mesoscale convective systems. And basically these are intense, very hard to figure out rounds of storms, and I think that's going to be the storyline more than likely over the next several days. And it's a storyline in this morning's video, and we're going to figure it out for you folks. So I do want to mention, stay tuned for tonight. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the pattern. I know I haven't made an evening video over the last couple of days. Just been taking a breather. It's been very busy the month of June, and I want to say thank y'all for the amazing support for the month of June. I've picked up a lot of growth. June is typically a very slow month, and you guys definitely showed the channel a lot of love, and I appreciate it. And welcome to the family for any new people that are watching or have decided to watch over the last couple weeks. So welcome. If you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's take a look at water vapor loop. I always like looking at this. It shows what's going on, I think, sometimes the best. But you got a lot of shower and storm activity in the white areas, but this is beginning to lose its steam, and then we'll have more shower and storm activity that develops in some of these same regions, especially up here later today. But really, let's focus in on the fact, and let's make sure this is working. It is. This is the ridge, and now don't take this line super serious, but this is in general where this heat ridge is. And we got a lot of heat in this region, basically, and it's very hot even outside this region because technically the upper ridge extends all the way up into here. But right here is really where the most intense heat is. So basically from Texas, which it's been very hot in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, it's starting to ooze into Mississippi, Tennessee, and Alabama now, where you actually have excessive heat warnings for today and some heat advisories. So it's going to be very hot. You're even starting to feel the effects of it in the Carolinas, where it's beginning to heat up. We haven't had any intense heat here in the Carolinas, which is where I live here in Columbia, South Carolina, yet this summer. No complaints here, but I think it's going to get very hot later this week into the weekend. So we really watch here as we have this ridge, we have a ring of fire. And it's because, I mean, technically you got to have a half ring here, but basically you have pieces of energy that rounds this ring, which is the axis of this ridge of high pressure, the upper portion of it. So you got pieces of energy that kind of flow like this, some that go like that, and you basically have a forecast that is very hard to figure out. And I'm going to show you that here for the upper Midwest a little bit later in the video when we talk about you guys' region. We have a very complex situation into the late afternoon, evening, and overnight hours to figure out for you folks. But right now, they're expecting the worst weather to be into this region, I would say right in here, where you're going to have a piece of energy that flies basically the upper portion of this ridge up here. So we'll try to figure that out, but I think it's going to get very active into these regions later this week. We got to figure that out. So we'll move past that, get that off the screen, and let's take a look at what's actually falling out there as we speak. And it's very active in some of the same areas that's going to get active again later this afternoon, this evening, into the overnight hours. We got a lot of rain falling across eastern Iowa, some more just light to moderate rain in central and northern Minnesota. We got a plume of heavy rain making the morning commute in Boston probably a mess here. Some heavy rain moving into the area. A little bit of rain in Missouri and Arkansas. Another area of showers and storms. Nothing severe. Moving through the Omaha area. It's going to move into western, continues to move into western Iowa. Outside of that, leftover rain from The afternoon, evening convection from yesterday still spinning around out here in western Montana and areas of Idaho. We'll expect more shower and storm activity in this region a little bit later today. We take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. Right now, you just got a weird looking marginal risk that just kind of winds all throughout this region. Basically goes across the northern plains, all the way into the central plains, all the way into the upper Mississippi Valley, to the upper Midwest, the Midwest regions. This is where they're having the highest confidence where severe weather can be today, right up here in Wisconsin. Almost includes Minneapolis, Eau Claire area, La Crosse. These areas will have the highest chance to see severe weather. But I'm telling you guys, I could see an extension of this slight risk extended down into Illinois. It just depends on what's going to happen. I want to let you guys know that this is certainly a pattern where confidence can increase in later updates on the actual day of the severe weather expected, meaning we can wake up to a slight risk in this region, and then the next update or two that comes out early to late morning could bump this to an enhanced risk or make the slight risk much larger. It's one of those things where you really have to see what's going on the day of as far as surface observations and certain things like that. But slight risk in this region, that you got a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. These two green areas, low chance of a tornado with these setups, but it's not non-existent. The wind threat, a 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher. That's 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in any given location in this area of Wisconsin, very small corner of northeast Iowa, and then areas of Minnesota. Brain farting there. But I'm telling you, if confidence increases, I do think you're going to get an extension of this further south. So if you're in Illinois, even extreme eastern Iowa, even into Missouri, maybe even into areas of Indiana, okay, I would definitely watch for later updates for sure from just your local people. Hail threat, same deal, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in this region, so we'll watch out for that. Could have some hail, but I think if anything increases, you're going to have a wind threat that increases. We'll see though. Watches, warnings, advisories, flood watches continuing for areas of Montana. The heat is finally arriving in areas of California, starting to heat up. You guys have enjoyed a pretty chill start to summer so far, but here comes the heat. You got the excessive heat watches up and heat advisories in regions in California and the valleys of California especially. But this purple color, that is excessive heat warnings. You can see, this is big cities like Memphis, Nashville, Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi, Meridian, Shreveport, Little Rock. Got some excessive heat watches down here in South Alabama. Heat advisories all the way to the Alabama-Georgia state line. So you can tell that this is beginning to creep a little bit further east. And when it gets so hot outside in the summer where you can't even really enjoy going outside without being in a body of water, that's the part of summer that I despise. I really do. But I know you guys are saying in Texas, Mitch, what are you complaining about? We've been dealing with it for weeks, but you were continuing to deal with it. Dallas-Fort Worth area back under an excessive heat warning, heat advisories in the orange, which extend all the way up into southern portions of Illinois and Indiana and western Kentucky. So make sure I'm saying these warnings right. I am. Sometimes I'll mix them up a little bit, but very hot. And you can actually see the axis of the ridge based off just all the heat alerts based off this. I do want to mention smoke. This is what this model that tells us where the smoke is saying where it's at, and it's saying it's the worst. Let me know if you're a viewer for around the southern tier of New York or western PA, even Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, anywhere really. But let me know if the smoke is really thick out there for your sunrise. I'd be interested to know how accurate this model is. But you continue to move this forward. Even in these areas down here in the Carolinas, I expect it to be pretty hazy today, even though it doesn't look as vibrant in these regions. The more vibrant colors you see, the more thick the smoke is, to the point where you can actually smell it where you're standing, especially in these areas. But I think the smoke's going to be rather thick in New York State today. This will eventually, into the evening hours, drift into sections of Vermont, New Hampshire, and just the entire Northeast today, except maybe Maine, will be quite smoky today. Very smoky in northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and areas of Minnesota also. Okay, so I think we're going to wake up tomorrow morning to a lot of smoke also across areas of the Great Lakes region and the Northeast. So smoke continues to be somewhat of a story, and I think it's going to become more of a story again today. It started over the last couple of days. It's going to continue over the next several days probably. Southeast, this will probably be the quickest I ever go through the Southeast, over the quickest I have been through the Southeast in the last few weeks. There's not a lot to speak on. I'll start off this morning, as we always do. Some showers will drift throughout southern and central Missouri, maybe to the Mississippi Valley, maybe to the Boot Hill, Missouri. We get into this afternoon. Outside of very isolated pop-up downpours somewhere in the Southeast, it's quiet and it is hot, especially the further west you work. The only areas that could see some showers and storms, maybe some sea breeze action this afternoon, this evening, is really anywhere from the central to southern sections of Florida, on the peninsula of Florida. You guys could see some pop-up showers and storms. You never know. Sometimes these can produce severe conditions like a downburst or something like that, frequent lightning, heavy rain. So be aware of this. I do expect central Florida could get quite active a little bit later this afternoon and evening. But, this is just typical summer type stuff. It really is. And then we're going to watch this stuff enter the screen. We'll talk about this in a second. But we will mention the temperatures across the Deep South. 90s, upper 90s, it's going to hit 100 degrees as it for an air temperature, probably from Shreveport to Little Rock. Very hot, upper 90s in the Mississippi, mid to upper 90s in Alabama, low to mid 90s in Nashville and Tennessee and Memphis. But you look at the heat index, and this is the thing that's just not cool at all, literally, is... Listen, the heat index is not going to be quite that bad. Still a little bit of dry air. Dew points maybe just in the 60s, low 70s into this region. But the heat index in Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi and southern Alabama, well over 105, 110 degrees in certain areas. Some areas might, especially in some of these sections of like southeast and southern Louisiana, might push 120 degrees for a heat index today. Very hot, miserable conditions. Just the dog days of summer, which I always consider mid to late July here in the Carolinas. But it does seem like June has been hotter than July lately. There's a saying around here in South Carolina where the hottest month is always August. And it seemed like that was always the case for a long time. But I can tell you, the worst of summer has been in June over the last several years here in the Carolinas. I'm just speaking of the Carolinas, but it is weird how sometimes June, July, or August is the hottest. So you never know which month is going to be hotter. But today up here in the north east, you're dealing with that heavy rain in Boston this morning. The ARRL model is doing an okay job at picking it up on it. But we expect a lot of shower and storm activity to develop again today. This is around 1 or 2, 3 p.m. this afternoon. A little piece of energy flying across Canada. And, if you're in western New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, especially Maine, a lot of shower and storm activity. And then even to this afternoon, this evening, you could have some downpours anywhere from New York City all the way through southern New England that could fly through. We don't expect these to hit severe limits, but these could produce some small hail, some gusty winds, and some heavy rain. But very kind of just not popcorn nature, but it's just like there's pockets of heavy rain just scattered about everywhere. There's not really one huge consolidated area just sweeping through the area. It's kind of just scattered everywhere. So just expect this from basically eastern New York State. I've been saying eastern New York State to Long Island, New York City, points east. You could definitely expect a lot of shower and even some storm activity. So we'll watch this. The south central U.S. today, you could see some storms, mainly way up here. And what's cool is you can actually see how this activity rounds a ridge right in here. If I speed it up really quick, look how it just kind of flies over. And then you see this flying to the south. This kind of comes in from this way. This kind of comes down that way. This is really indicating that pattern around this axis of high pressure, and it's flowing along the upper and side portions of this ridge. But as far as the south central U.S. today, outside of some showers that might drift through areas of Missouri, maybe Arkansas, it's pretty quiet, but we could get some storm activity in western Kansas. That is possible. This could drift into central Kansas, but I don't expect anything storm-wise to really be a factor today in the south central U.S. whatsoever. But temperatures will be brutal in Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma City will get well into the 100s today. Tulsa also, Dallas-Fort Worth area also, especially right in here in North Texas and southwest Oklahoma, that the air temperature will get over 110 degrees. But the heat index, it's always a little bit more difficult to figure out in Texas because West Texas is typically very dry as far as the humidity. It's a dry heat, and East Texas is a different story with the moist flow that typically comes off the Gulf of Mexico. So your heat index will actually be lower than your actual air temperature for Central and West Texas. But you work your way into Eastern Texas, and it's going to feel like over 110, 115 degrees today in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Very brutal heat indices in this region. So you guys, I would say that you're used to this, but I can't speak for you guys. But I know that you've been dealing with it for a while. I really hope we can shake this ridge. The thing the thing that sucks about these this high pressure, these upper ridges, when they get anchored in, it's hard to shake them. It really is. It happens in the winter all the time in the southeast, except you don't get 100-degree temperatures in the winter in the southeast. It happens all the time in the winter in the southeast. You get this southeast ridge, and it happened this winter. You guys out in Texas, Oklahoma got that period in late January, early February last year where you got like multiple rounds of winter weather. I think Dallas-Fort Worth area got a thunder sleet in the teens. At the same time you guys were experiencing that, us here in the Carolinas were like well above average. And it's because sometimes you get these Arctic boundaries that dig so far south. Here I am talking about winter weather in this middle of summer. But you get them, they dive so far south that it actually bulges the jet, and it causes a ridge to build in the southeast. But let's not get into that. We're in the summer. I'm just so excited about winter, so here I am. The north central U.S. today, the upper Midwest, the Midwest region, you'll continue to deal with just rounds of showers. But what we watch for here, and got my Google Maps up here, the Rochester area, Eau Claire, somewhere in between down to La Crosse, you guys could get an area of showers and storms that develops around late afternoon, 4, 5, 6 p.m. These could develop into more of an intense round of storms. It's going to be pretty difficult to figure out. I mean, you could get some intense storms up here in North Dakota. Some big storms are possible also in areas of the northern plains. We'll talk about these in a second. Let's go on and zoom in to this region. We're going to compare the HRRR model with the NAM. So we'll start this off this morning. And here are these storms developing. They could be quite intense in this region, kind of just north of the Minneapolis area. In and around that area, and then they begin to work their way into maybe the Eau Claire area, areas of western Wisconsin, and they kind of ride the Mississippi River for a bit, and we'll stop it here. This is around 10 p.m. Pretty intense looking storms. In western and northwestern sections of Wisconsin, you could have some storms down here popping off in eastern Iowa. I can't tell you enough how difficult this is going to be to figure out over the next few days. That's why we're going to compare the HRRR model with the NAM a lot over the next few days. But this continues. You could lose some steam with this area of storms. At this point, we're getting to around midnight, and you could have like the reemergence of some showers and storms in southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, eastern Iowa that really develop and get strong here. And this is the middle of the night, so you could be dealing with some rocky weather in the middle of the night, in the wee hours of the morning, Chicago, northern Illinois, maybe even to eastern Illinois, northern Indiana. This is around 3 a.m. in the morning tonight, and just a huge complex of storms making their way. This is what we call one of those mesoscale convective systems. They typically develop late afternoon to evening hours one day, and then they work their way through an entire geographical region throughout the overnight hours, and sometimes they're still packing a punch when you wake up in the morning. And then that same energy will re-get going again sometime the next day. So you keep this rolling here. This looks like a nasty area of storms somewhere in Illinois and Indiana, but it could just as well be over here. So, and this is, as we're waking up tomorrow morning, you could be waking up to some very stormy, severe storms tomorrow morning in Illinois and Indiana. It's just trying to figure out where. It's a difficult forecast. Definitely cut your local meteorologist some slack with this one. This is going to be tough. Okay, we'll back this up. Let's look at the NAM. All right, same area. NAM, it does like the idea of some storms up here, but it already looks different. One, it shows maybe some strong storms around eastern Iowa, northwest sections of Illinois, in and around maybe, the Butte area. Always struggle with that one. Davenport, you guys, could see some storms. It's possible. It's quite possible in this region, but it's interesting what happens after this. Nothing too crazy gets going on up here in the area that you do have a slight risk in. All the way through evening hours. I mean, you do have some storms up here that could, pop off right here where, Wisconsin and Minnesota meet. But there's not a whole lot going on up here. There does show some storm. What I want you to watch is this feature right here. And southern sections of Iowa that really gets going here. Okay? It quickly gets going. Des Moines points south and southeast. This is an intense line of storms that develops, sweeps across southeast and southern sections of Iowa, and then look what happens. This turns into a very intense line of storms as it makes its way basically to where Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri meet. And you freeze it right here, and we'll go on and jump a little bit further southeastward, and look at this line of storms. And look, this is at 2 o'clock in the morning. I know it says 3 a.m., but we're in Central Time, and this is an intense line of storms. And I want you to know that you only got a marginal risk down here. So the ARRR model does not show this at all. Okay. So, I know there's not a very highly populated areas in this region, but, Burlington, Iowa, Kirksville, basically the northeast corner of Missouri, Memphis, Missouri, Wayland, Quincy, Illinois, you guys watch out into the late night hours, overnight hours, because if the NAM is correct, this is a classic looking mesoscale convective system that could produce very strong winds, some hail, you never know, maybe a brief spin up. But man, this could catch people by surprise. But I can tell you the Storm Prediction Center is seeing this too, and they're probably considering, depending on confidence on what the later models do. But I'm telling you, I would watch out for this line of storms. This continues to blast through. Could affect the St. Louis area around 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. But I'm telling you, remember, the HRRR model has a huge area of storms into this region over here for the same time frame tomorrow morning. So I would watch out in this entire region, especially overnight tonight, really mainly overnight tonight. Please be on alert for the potential for a complex of storms that could cause damage. I mean, and this is continuing. I mean, you're waking up tomorrow morning. This is heading right towards like Evansville, Indiana, blasting through southern Illinois, heading all the way down to western Kentucky. And these setups are very tricky. They are very tricky and difficult to figure out. So let's watch for this. I'll be interested to see what develops later this afternoon, this evening. Of course, I go to sleep at like 8:30, so I'm not going to know what happens overnight tonight. But please be aware in these areas. Rainfall, I know a lot of areas in Illinois especially need rain. I think you will see rain sometime, especially overnight tonight. It's just trying to figure out where. And it depends on where this area of storms blast through. But I think the chance for rain is obviously much higher. And you guys need rain in the UP of Michigan too. Areas could see anywhere from a 1/4 inch of rain to 1 inch of rain up here in Wisconsin, the western UP, and then a northeast Minnesota. So we'll watch for that. The Rockies, same kind of deal today. This spin that's kind of centered over Idaho and western Montana will re-energize the atmosphere here again. And western Montana, especially all of western Montana, central Montana, a bunch of shower and storm activity. You could get some strong storms also in eastern Wyoming. You do have a marginal risk in kind of the same areas as yesterday along that South Dakota, Nebraska state line. You could have one or two nasty supercells. So please watch out if you're a small town or community out here. Be aware of some strong storms right out here in the northern plains. They're certainly possible. Could be quite intense in kind of the same regions as yesterday. But Idaho, Montana, northern Nevada, you guys could see a lot of shower and storm activity again today. Kind of the same areas it's going to be impacted. It was impacted yesterday, will be impacted today. But, I mean, you could get some showers that is possible down here in New Mexico, even in the far southeast corner of Arizona, which is a state I don't mention much at all. They are possible. Temperatures today, we already mentioned it for a lot of folks, very hot across the south central U.S. Northeast, pretty cool today with just being under the influence of this low. Only 60s and 70s for highs. You know, some of these higher elevations won't get out the 50s. Chilly morning in the upper Midwest this morning in the 40s. Highs today in the 70s and 80s, though, so you will warm up. There is a boundary between just mild, warm air and very hot air, basically, that's in southern Iowa. So that will separate, like I said, you know, the temperatures that feel a lot better to the temperatures that don't, that are very hot. So upper Midwest could be, you know, areas of Minnesota might struggle to get out the 60s today with this these temperatures up here that are being influenced by this clouds and rain. We move out west. It is starting to warm up, starting to get well into the 90s. You're probably going to get a 100-degree reading in the Valley of California. You know, the lower elevations are going to warm up anywhere out west. So you're going to get in the 80s and 90s. The higher elevations are the only areas that are going to be cooler. And with this little spin right here, you might remain cool here in Idaho and western Montana. But everybody else, you know, starting to warm up, you're not really below average really much anymore. Unless if you're in this immediate region right here where you're still just dealing with this low pressure with a lot of shower and storm activity. The reason we're getting such a crazy pattern is this is that ridge. We're going to start this off by Monday morning. This is 48 hours ago, 2 days ago, right? The darker red is basically where the center of this ridge of high pressure was, okay? You know, you get to red, orange. This is basically where the ridge is, right? It started out over here, okay? But watch as we work our way all the way to right now and how this shifts further east. See how it's shifting east? And we go all the way to about the current time frame, and this has bulged further north and it has shifted east. That means the hot temperatures are moving further east, okay? And this is getting larger, so more areas now are being impacted by very hot temperatures. And even as we work our way into the end of the week, this continues to inch and build north and inch east. Watch how it starts to really influence the Carolinas. So this is going to continue. I think we're going to enter a pretty hot pattern. It's already been hot in the southern plains, but I think it's going to warm up a lot in the southeast. And, I mean, here it is. It looks like the ridge begins to flatten out, but really what's going to happen is you're going to have pieces of energy that fly across this upper portion, and this is when we have the chance for more storms. So tomorrow, you have a slight risk across the Midwest and portions of the Ohio Valley, okay, the upper Mississippi Valley. So I could see this changing a lot between now and the next 24 hours, so stay tuned. But right now, a slight risk in this region: Chicago, Indianapolis, Louisville, St. Louis. You guys could be impacted by some nasty storms tomorrow. So we got to watch and see what happens. And then even getting into Friday, this begins to kind of get its way a little bit closer to the central and southern Alps. And, you know, some hills are impacted at this point. You got a marginal risk that extends all the way into areas of the western Carolinas. Okay, slight risk centered right over the Ohio Valley. So I expect day 4 to be the same way into the weekend. I think we're going to have a stormy time this weekend across this area of the country. Okay, so we'll continue to watch this. That's all I got. God bless all y'all. Sorry about a little bit of the shakiness in the video. I feel like that was not delivered as well it normally is. Just some videos are going to be like that where you're not getting as good of a flow as you typically do, but we'll get it right tonight. So stay tuned. God bless all y'all. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll talk to y'all soon.